welcome back to another week of Weekly Wallet Wagers with Will Marsh, Jonathan Hillier, and me, Griffin Good.
What's up, Griffin? Thank you for having us back, man.
Hillier.
Is that how do you?
I like that. Hillier.
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 Actually, that's not funny.
Are you just hillier than the others?
I am.
All right, great. Just making sure.
What's up, John? Glad you're in a good mood today. This is going to be a fun episode of Weekly Wallet Wagers. So thank y'all and welcome back. One thing I wanted to circle back around with y'all. Somebody, it may have been, maybe I don't remember. We were talking about Elon Musk a minute ago and his Twitter and his trades he's been making. Let's update the world on the Musk front real quick. Other than selling electronic cars, what has he been doing to mess with our money in the month of December?
I know he took out around 11 billion dollars from Tesla.
Was it that much?
Mm-hmm. And then he ended up news came out that 356,000 around there cars were recalled, and that was about how many cars were produced this whole year from Tesla. And so
I saw that. Wait, so hang on, Griffin. He pulled his money before the recall went public?
Indeed, and he did say it was so he could pay taxes, but we can see that the stock plummeted right after he pulled out his money.
Hang on, so there have to be consequences for that, because you can't insider trade on your own funds in your own company. You're like, oh, well, it's not public yet, but the feds tomorrow are going to announce that my company's having to do a recall and our stock's going to plummet. So next, isn't that what Martha Stewart did to have to go to jail? Is like Martha Stewart was a partner in some big company, and her attorney called her and was like, hey, tomorrow we're about to get indicted, or there's federal or something like that. And so Martha Stewart then called her broker and was like, hey, move all my stock out of this company because the feds are going to come on publicly tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And then she spent a year in jail, teaching baking classes to other inmates from jail and still doing her shit. But point is, it was very public, which is why a lot of people were like, whoa, if that can happen, then maybe I need to make more careful moves. But yeah, so could you tell us a little bit about that situation, Griffin or John?
Yeah, and so it found out that all of these Tesla cars, their dash cams were dying, and so people weren't able to see the surrounding motion in their Teslas, which caused a ton of crashes and ended up having a national recall of about 350 something thousand cars, which is absolutely horrible. A lot of I think there were over 200 crashes before then, having to do with the dash cams.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so I find it interesting how he seems to be running the world on his Twitter. We see that he took out money right before this recall. We see that
because Griffin, that's a dangerous point that you bring up. Is okay, well, if Musk can mess with his own Tesla or whatever, well, then the only people that are affected by that are maybe his customers and his investors of that stock symbol. But the rest of us that maybe aren't playing with Elon Musk's companies for that exact reason that you just brought up, he still has the power to affect us in the rest of the market with his Twitter account or the other 20,000 avenues that he has that we're not even seeing at the moment. So
yeah, I know. Back in July, we had the whole situation with Dogecoin and Bitcoin. He was single-handedly allowing Dogecoin to rise and fall along with Bitcoin itself, the big behemoth. And so some say that even caused the whole bear market for cryptocurrency was because of his tweets.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, Griffin. It's a good point. I had actually forgotten about that since it was so long ago. But on that note, excuse me. And talk all day. And when we get on air, I start talking and can't talk. Y'all have seen the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Oh, about of course. Solid. Literally what I'm about to be doing.
Yeah.
Maybe not exactly.
But that didn't take place very long ago. And Jordan Belfort, in that story, he is he's in his 40s or maybe 50 now. and he's living in Australia. And the reason why he will not return to the United States is because the United States government and the SEC literally made up a new law saying that he had to be banished from the United States and that he was not allowed to not only trade in the American markets, but he is not even allowed to live in America for the propaganda that he was, and how that was affecting the market. And so now Jordan Belfort from the Wolf of Wall Street is just living a luxurious life in Australia, but he's playing the market over there. But he literally, because he became such a shark in our markets and controlled so much of Wall Street and used that around the law to, shift for his own gain, that there was literally no other option but for our country to banish him from living and operating here. And that's what happened to Jordan Bell. Like, if y'all are listening to this podcast or watching this YouTube episode and you've seen the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, don't take my word for this. Go Google it. Jordan Belfort actually has a YouTube channel, just like us. And he does these daily and weekly videos where he broadcasts what's going on in his life from Australia. And he's been very blunt about this. But yeah, I bring that up, guys, because it reminded me of like what Elon Musk is doing. And I think if he continues, I mean, he's done a lot of good for our economy, but if he continues to mess with the rest of the investors and the people in the market like this, it's only a matter of time before he pisses off enough people that say, okay, like, maybe we need to do something about this. And when people get around the table having that conversation of maybe we need to do something about this, it can transition very quickly to what are we going to do about this? And then it becomes a big deal. So I don't know what y'all think on that, but Musk needs to be careful if he likes operating in America.
Oh, for sure. I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's very controversial in what he is doing. He even the problem I believe would be with that is that he's very tactical. He knows exactly what he's doing. He even came out with a poll on whether or not he should take out that $10 billion earlier, and people voted for him to take out that $10 billion so he'd pay taxes.
Wait, hang on. He did it as a public poll, so that way it looked like the public was saying, you should do this. He was acting on public opinion. Even though he was the one that did that because he knew that people would support his investment ideas. So naturally, gosh, that's brilliant. Musk, if you're listening to this podcast, because I know you are, because of course this is the way, I was about to say this is the way we see it, John. This is weekly wallet wager right here. I know Musk and everybody. Hey, by the way, what's up, Belfort? Hey, Jordan. Sorry, I didn't mean to say hey to you earlier. I know Jordan Belfort.
Shout out to his book, The Way of the Wolf.
Yeah, like both of you guys, call into this show. We'd love to get y'all on the next episode and have y'all answer some of these questions for the viewers for us. So
I think one thing we definitely should talk on, and this was something I was watching recently on his podcast, but it was Jordan Belfort's interview with Grant Cardone.
Oh my gosh,
Grant.
Y'all, did I ever tell you the story about when I met Grant Cardone in his office?
No.
This is wild. So a few years ago, back when I was back when I was still a managing director for National Life Group, I did a little contest for my agency. It was like, hey, if all you guys bring in, like $5,000 or $10,000, sales business to the agency this month, I'll fly everybody down to Miami. And so there was like 5 guys that hit it, right? So I had to bought a bunch of American Airlines tickets, and I went on Airbnb and rented this big, beautiful house with a pool on the water there in Miami. And, we went down there, we got a rental car just to hang out for a few days. And we got looking it up because we knew Grant Cardone was down there. And we called his office and we kept we were on the phone with his assistant trying to get a meeting with him. We had nothing to lose. We were just there for 2 days on vacation, right? And Grant Cardone was in the same city. So, and they kept trying to sell us. They're like, yeah, he'll do coaching sessions, for $5,000 a person. Y'all come in, and kept trying to sell us. We were like, no, we're not going to do that. But hey, we do want to buy some of his books. So we'll come by the office. And they're like, no, you can't do that. Grant's busy. He won't see. Like Cardone, Grant Cardone's people are not friendly to their customers. They operate with great attitude of you have to be good enough to see him, and you need to pay to be worth his time. So Grant Cardone does this weekly call. He has a studio in his office where he and he comes in the studio and he does these daily or weekly sales training calls. And they're on YouTube and or he's calling and teaching his content. Well, we go into his office and all the TVs are on. He's actually behind the wall where we are in his studio. and he's doing his show. He had people from Google there. I think Google had came also that day to his office, and so and they're like, well, yeah, you can sit here and watch it. And so we're sitting in his office. His assistant is right there. And of course, like when we get there, like security people come out and they're like standing there with us the entire time. Cause I guess security is like watch all these people. Why are they this close to Grant? And then we also offered to buy some books from him. So we went in the bookstore there at his office and bought a few books, but it was really cool because we really just wanted to see him in person, even though he wouldn't see us. And so we waited, and when his show was done, he comes out of the studio, and we're like, hey, Grant, and he kind of looks at it this way, and then he keeps walking and leave. And then when we were asked to leave his office, of course, because, again, Grant Cardone's many things, but friendly and warm is probably not one of them.
Gosh. I know there was sorry, continue.
No, go ahead. I'm about done. And then on the way out, we leave his office, and then right by the door in a handicapped parking space is like this $150,000 Rolls Royce. It's the white Rolls Royce that you see in all Grant's photos. Because he takes photos with all of his cars and stuff. I'm like I'm taking selfies here. And we walk around to the back of it, and the license plate says 10X. Is what and that's his book. The 10X series. And so we're like, oh my gosh! And so I get down, like as soon as I can crouch, I take a picture or selfie with the Rolls Royce and the 10X license plate in the background. And of course, as soon as I do, 2 of his security guards were coming out of his office, like, step away from the car. And we're like, all right, thanks. Y'all have a good day. Nice to meet you guys. And we left. But like, I took that opportunity to see Cardone the one time I had it, and I wasn't even welcome or wanted there.
Wow, that is unfortunate. It reminds me on TikTok there was a little feud between Grant Cardone and Gary Vee on who works harder. And so Gary Vee says he works 18 hours a day nonstop, and he can flip things like Legos for money. He I know he had a little series where he'd go to yard sales and he'd find value, and he'd extremely undersell these products, underbuy these products from these yard sales and try to take a profit. And I thought that was hilarious. This guy making millions of dollars going to yard sales and saying he can flip anything.
I mean, that's a brilliant concept, though. I'm glad you bring that up because, I mean, again, some of the best ideas or the most successful ideas are simple ones. And, I mean, guys, that's proof right there. What Griffin's saying is, anybody can be rich and be successful. If, 1, you work hard and you put in the time and the consistency, and 2, you find an idea of something that you're good at that's simple that other people aren't doing and run with it. So thank you for bringing that up.
Oh yeah, a lot of inspiration from Gary Vee. I know there was a little podcast with Logan Paul and Mr. Beast on how they first got into NFTs. And Gary Vee had a group call with about 18 different people, high level people, and he introduced crypto to them for the first time. And that might have...
He introduced cryptocurrency, you said?
No, CryptoPunks, the one of the main NFTs in the space.
Yeah, they're like 8-bit characters.
I was gonna say, if he introduced cryptocurrency to them, they must have been living under
yeah. But and this this first I guess series of NFTs, that Gary Vee's influence might have actually pushed CryptoPunks onto the map because of that meeting, and started a surge of NFTs in the market, which I find fascinating.
NFTs and a little bit of money laundering, just
yeah. You're right, John. Gosh, wouldn't that be awesome to be at that point where, having the social media following to where if you want to shift the market, you just make a video, send it out to people, and it carries that much influence.
I thought you were about to say, how cool would it be to money launder?
Well, that too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. To have the money to be able to do that. Wow.
Yeah.
Although you could ask Jordan Belfort how that works out when you get caught.
Right.
No.
Isn't that what Belfort got caught with? His money laundering?
I'm not entirely sure.
I don't think so.
Or was it insider trading with stocks? It was one of those.
Probably it was insider trading with those pink sheets.
Yeah. Fraud had to be somewhere in there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole point was he was calling people up and getting them to buy securities. That way he can make his money, dip out, and then sell it back at loss essentially. I mean, like, or I at least think that's what he did. But yeah.
But it wasn't illegal at the time. I mean, like, if somebody cold calls you on your landline on your home phone, and they're like, "Hey, give me all your money. I'm gonna invest it in the stock market." Like,
yeah.
Part of me is like you get like if your telephone rings and it's a Nigerian prince that needs your help out of trouble, or if it's somebody that says they're going to make you rich in the stock market, or if it's there's so many situations like that. Like, you should just know better than to give your money blindly to.
Yeah, I don't think it was so much as to like the fact that he was like selling those securities for people if they called him. It was more so the fact that he'd coax them into like a different security or like securities that would favor his wallet, I guess, something like that. But I don't know. I'd have to, I guess, read the book again.
Yeah, I will. I mean, John, as you will learn here in the coming weeks and months, when you go through all those financial licenses courses like I did, I mean, your fiduciary agreement is such a big part of all of that. And if y'all listeners, what I mean by that is anybody who's a licensed financial representative of usually any capacity. There's a bunch of different licenses out there, but there's always what's called a fiduciary agreement or a fiduciary contract, and that means that part of your obligation as a licensed financial representative is to not necessarily move money or to write a product that you can get your client to agree to because it's good for you as a financial trader or advisor. But the fiduciary part means that you have to do what's in your client's best financial interest. And that can always be different depending upon their age, their assets, or their situation. Mm-hmm. And so you always have to take that under advisement because, again, if something goes wrong, and let's say that, a case you did or a trade that you did or a transaction you did comes under review from either the financial company or your state's Department of Insurance and Financial Services, or even the feds and the SEC with the regulatory authority, they will look at it and look at the person's situation and their assets before you made that trade, as well as the market, and see, okay, were you doing this and was this in the client's best interest, or was this in the financial service agent's best interest? And if it was in your best interest and not in the client's best interest, then you're held to your fiduciary obligation. And there's a lot of people each and every year in every state that lose their licenses and their right to practice finance for that reason.
I did not know that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and it's also probably the clause that gets the most people in the financial services industry in trouble for because it's kind of that catch-all. In regulatory, is because there's people that come through all those different moving parts, so there's always some way that they could say, well, maybe this was not in the client's best interest as much as it was the agent's, because the agent is guaranteed to get paid a commission, but then again, the market is not guaranteed. There's always risk, and so it's a tricky business. But then again, if it wasn't tricky, we'd all be rich off the market and we would go to work. So
for sure.
Yeah,
that would be nice. And I think a lot of issue that was raised, if we go back to Jordan Belfort, was that I believe he was just going, I guess everyday people were giving him lump sums that they couldn't afford, almost like it was I guess they gave their life savings,
pretty much.
Yeah, their mortgages. They put it all into these trusts with Jordan Belfort, hoping that they could produce an income. And I believe a lot of them got extremely broken and went impoverished because of what Jordan Belfort did.
Yeah, that would be a prime example of not being in your fiduciarily being in your best interest.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if they went up and everybody got super, super rich, it may not have had the same result. But again, that's why as a financial service representative, the obligation and the oath you swear to is so important, because not only are you have other people's lives and futures in your hands, but you have your own, because if you don't play by the rules, guess what happens?
Dangerous.
They will find you. They will find you.
They will find you. That's a good way to put it. used to, people had a living shot when they went on the run from the feds. There weren't satellites, there weren't drones, there wasn't thermal imaging software. They can't. There's not cameras everywhere now. Like, props to you if you were able to hide anywhere on this globe from government organizations.
Yeah. Speaking of they will get you. The SEC is now cracking down on taking taxes for your crypto gains. They found over 10,000 wallets, and they were able to get you to pay taxes on those gains for this past year if they were significant enough.
I am one of those. I just got I really shouldn't be sharing this, but I don't care. I think viewers of the show know how I feel about the federal government and about regulatory authorities. So, hey, this is no secret. But last week, I got a letter in the mail about 100. I mean, this is so small, I don't even know why they would come after me. But a wage garnishment for $147.
You're kidding me.
For crypto gains. Not reported to an account. So all they want from me is $147, but they are pulling it out of my income to get it because I didn't pay it.
Wow, that is something. I didn't know they would even go for smaller tax transactions. So,
all right, last question, because guys, we've gone on for a while now, and I know that we're about at 40 minutes, so we need to wrap this up. But last question on this matter is, what are ways to avoid that, Griffin and John? I mean, y'all are both really, really smart money people. I mean, can one get an address in like El Salvador and then, register for a brokerage account there and, somehow move your money, to a different country and then start trading? Or because you're an American citizen residing in the United States, are the Feds still going to find out and make you pay taxes on that? Because there's certainly people that operate out of other countries and have money in other countries that play their markets and are not susceptible, at least to the American tax rates and the American IRS.
I don't really know. I'm not really a tax advisor, but but I imagine just as you would traveling to a foreign country, you're still an American citizen and you still technically have to pay taxes on the things you make purchases on. Now, I know if you bank with like an American bank, and then you're still conducting those trades, even if your address is in El Salvador or Brazil or something, you're still going to have to pay taxes on it. But I can't imagine, there's something around that with a foreign bank, but I'd also be worried under the question, is that really safe for you to do with your money?
That, John, that's a good point, and why I'm glad you're the conservative voice of reason here on this show, because there are a lot of people who have tried that methodology that I just recommended, or that Griffin and I were talking about, and then they lose their money, and it's just gone overseas, whether it's hacked or somebody takes it, or a different government organization. And it's not like you can go to the Feds and say, hey, I had $1,000 overseas, and which is a really small amount, and hey, I want your help to get it back, and because I was trying to cheat the American IRS or whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you for all of this. I mean, we've had so many. I know we've kind of gone through so many different topics here. We've talked about. Hi, John. Who is that? You had a whole other cast member with us, and you didn't introduce.
Yeah, it's Dakota.
Dakota, this is your new cat.
Yeah, I've had her for about 4 weeks now.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Guys, John adopted a cat. If y'all didn't pick that up from his lack of words in that statement. Dakota,
I got a little something.
Dakota, a him or a her?
It's a her.
Her, very nice.
Do you pour her bowls of warm milk every night, or does she not?
No. I have this additive that I put in her water so her breath doesn't stink, but that's about it. Stop fucking going for my feet. Damn it.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank y'all for being here. This has been another weekly Wallet Wagers. We will come back to you guys next week with whatever has happened in the market this week. We're going to continue on updating you with some of the high-level political leaders trades that Griffin Goodman brought you today. Because again, that's a really interesting concept, and I think that we can expand on that for everybody's horizon. So, thank you, Griffin, for being here, and thank you, John, for being here. We'll see you guys next week.